Welcome to Half Century Hangout, where different paths lead to the same table. I'm your host, John, joined by my friends and co-hosts, Luke and Chuck. We're three guys who grew up differently but became good friends with a lot to talk about. On this show, we bring our unique perspectives to the table and dive into everything from current events to life's big questions. We might not always see eye to eye, but that's exactly why we're here. To listen, to learn, and change our minds sometimes. So grab a seat and join us for honest conversation, unexpected insights, and a few friendly arguments. This is Half Century Hangout, where different perspectives make for better discussions.
Welcome back, John.
Great. Hey, thank you.
It is
I
good
appreciate it.
to have you back on, John.
Absolutely. So what's been going on here? We've got, it's May.
The end of the
May
school
Day,
year.
end of the school year, all those activities that come along with it.
My namesake Luke graduated from Aurora University. Congrats to him. Degree in business and marketing. So
That's quite an accomplishment.
Nice.
yeah, doesn't have a job yet, but
Well, that's
Hey.
next step, right?
yeah, it's baby steps. That's what he said. And I said, well, let's make those baby steps a little bigger. Let's see what we can do there.
For sure.
Let's try. So
Yeah.
it was fun though. It's good to see that. It's always proud of your kids when they reach those milestones. It's cool to go through that, and got to spend some time with my other kids too. So it's always good. It's good to get together, spend time. Release from work a little bit and
Yeah.
get out the door. Missed a couple things here at school, but you know what? You guys did a great job of carrying the weight.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
keeping it going.
Yeah. I saw TikTok. Yes.
You're a TikTok guy?
I'm a TikTok guy.
right,
And I saw a TikTok that used AI to put Michael Jordan, up against the stats of all the greats of today. And even in this AI generated type of story, he was head and shoulders above everyone
100%.
else.
100%. There's
Yeah.
there's no comparison.
Yeah,
I don't care what anybody says.
They used the type of game that's played today, the different technology type of things when it comes to fitness. And
Well, if you think about it, if you watched any of that era when he was playing and watching him, and you had, and again, I'll just bring up the Pistons again. It was the Jordan rules.
Yeah.
You go to the hole, he's getting hit.
he's getting hit.
He's
Can't do
getting
that now.
fouled.
They touch somebody, and
Oh,
he would have gone off.
this thing said that even the
He
way
went off getting tackled.
Yeah, for sure. And this thing said that with the way they use space these days, how it's more of a flow game.
Yeah. Yep.
Space is broader, whatever. They said that he would have absolutely.
Oh, he would have torn.
He would have eaten him up.
mastered them.
He would
Yeah,
have.
he would
He would
have.
have tore it up.
Anyway,
It is kind of funny that you brought that up, because as we segue in, the one thing of AI that I will, if I'm in a mindless mode where I don't want to think, I just want to watch something and laugh. Those little AI things crack me up. I don't know if you've ever seen them, where it's an AI generated thing where there's a car and it's going to crash into a tree
yeah,
at 20 miles an hour, at 50 miles an hour, at 100.
yeah.
The one I saw the other day, it was a school bus versus a large speed bump, okay, at 10 miles an hour. And so this bus goes over it and it scrapes the bottom like the drive shafts. And then by the time it gets to like 80 miles an hour, here's this school bus plowing down the road, hits
Getting
the thing,
launched.
and it hits the overpass on the highway. Oh my, I was laughing so hard. I'm like, first of all, seeing a bus going 150 miles an hour just made me laugh by itself.
For sure.
But that shows you what mood I was in at the time when it did it. But some of that stuff with AI, it does make me laugh just because it's funny. But I think the direction we were heading today initially with AI was kind of a question that we get here because of what we're involved with in education, is AI a tool that supports students in their learning, or is it a crutch that holds them back? And I think it was something that I was talking about with somebody over the weekend. Is it cheating? Is it not cheating? Is
Right.
it, that's kind of the question. So I thought maybe we'd chew on that a little bit and see, because I know that we have people that listen that are parents that probably have views about it, but we also have other educators that listen, and just people in general that may not really quite understand and know what it is. But I think that the biggest question that I had, that people are concerned about trying to limit student use of AI. All right.
Can you explain for people who may not know, what is the AI and how is it used among students?
I think that's part of what the answer is that I've looked at is that it depends on how you actually use it. All right. If students were using it, let's just say it's Chat GPT or something, that they are going to put in a prompt or a topic that the teacher gives them.
Right.
For a paper, an essay, whatever you want to say, whatever they call it. And AI generates something for them. And then they use it as their work. Okay.
Right.
That's one thing.
Right.
That's one
way
example way over here somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay. There's another example where a student might say, okay, here's this topic. What I'd like to see is research on XYZ on this. Show me research about this.
Right.
And it'd be just like doing an internet search. It's very similar. It's not doing much except for the fact that the AI in the Chat GPT is generating information for them. So you might even look at that and say, that was like using an encyclopedia back in the day, or a dictionary, or a thesaurus, or something where you're gaining more information somehow to then make this essay or to write this essay.
Right.
Another way that they would use it would be, I have this essay that I wrote. They're going to put it in and they're going to say, hey, could you check this for grammatical errors? Could you check this for better ways that I could write this? Could you check this to make it flow better? Whatever you want to do. I think that's another way. And there's more ways than that, I'm sure. But those are the three ways that I kind of focused on in this conversation that I had over the weekend. But on the flip side of it, how are the teachers using it?
Exactly.
Okay. So that's kind of where I wanted to jump in at and see what you thought. So, John, what do you think about using AI in education?
I think it can be a wonderful tool. I think you have to learn how to use it just like you would any other tool that you've got. I think that teachers can use it to make education more individualized for students. Teachers need to use it to help them maybe get some questions put together, how to check for someone's understanding. So all kinds of tools that teachers can use it for. Seems like we're a little bit hesitant to use it as a tool. Look at the calculator. When it first came out, they're like, well, you're going to let kids use a calculator? Really? A calculator? No, they got to think of it on their own. They got to do this mental math. They got to use a slide rule. They got to do it the way we did it. Yeah. And we eventually get to a point where, you know what, it's okay.
I think part of it is that, and I'm not going to lie that I've fallen into that thought process before where I don't know that we should use things or invent things or that
think for us.
Yeah, that think for us or that do the work for us. But as we know, our society has completely changed toward convenience. But I think that the technology, like you mentioned, a calculator, some of those things, I think people said, oh, we don't really want kids to do that because, you know, when they get into the workforce, they won't be able to do that. It's like, well, there's probably not a whole lot of jobs that were involved in numbers that wouldn't allow some sort of computer use or calculator use for people to do work because it would be faster. Yeah. And they wanted production, right? Yeah. So I think that I kind of fell along those lines for a while, that I really as a teacher, I would always say, I want to see your work, right? I want to see how you got there, which I do think is important.
Absolutely.
They need to understand the process.
Mm-hmm.
But is it wrong to say, okay, if I know that you know how to do the process, okay, now you've graduated and you're able to use this or whatever it is, like it's some sort of a progression.
Yeah. Is it even necessary to learn some of those things? Because you can Google that answer pretty quick. Like if you're building a house and you need to know a cut because you're building a 612 pitch and you need to know what the cut is for a truss or something. You can find that answer out pretty quick.
Do we need to get your slide rule out and look it up, or look it up on the computer, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Sure.
I think it's important to know.
Yeah.
Now, you might not use that in your day-to-day, like as a carpenter or something in that regard, but I think in certain ways there's benefits to knowing what got us there, wherever we're at, whatever that is. If it's a thought process, if it's some sort of a project, if it's a geometric equation, if it's a financial somehow of a equation that gets us to gross national product or whatever it is, I think it's important to know those things and the process as we go. Just because I think if you're just working for the answer at the end, which I realize that's kind of the end product, I don't think that has as much value as it does knowing what it took to get there. I feel like we asked a lot more questions when I was in high school than kids do now. I think we have to sometimes pull those out of kids now. Like we have to lead them to that trough. Like we've got to get them there to that point of query where they say, I'm going to inquire about this. Like you're getting them to the point where they start to nibble at it, and then they want to take it to the next step and say, well, hey, how does this happen? Or, hey, where does it go from there? And then sometimes that's like pulling teeth.
Yeah, it is.
That's difficult.
Yeah.
Because especially if they know, like you said, they could Google something, but I feel that it's taking away from the process of being able to say, hey, how does this happen? Or I'm really interested in that. Can you tell me how it works? Some of those things I think are important for students to know. So yes, I would say I feel like we need to teach more of that, which is why when we talked about the AI thing in those 3 examples, I don't necessarily know, like the one example that I gave where a student puts in a topic
and
they get something
back.
out.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And they claim it as their own. That's
ethical.
That's probably
not right.
Yeah.
Right.
In the middle example where it was, I'm going to use this and it's going to help me get some information. I'm going to search some research and then I can come to my own conclusions, write something up.
Right.
I don't think that's cheating. That's research, just using a tool that's
smart
more
use of your time.
Okay. The other one, which was, here's what I wrote. Check this for errors or check this for, it's kind of like a glorified spell check, if you want to say. As long as it doesn't change the content too much, which I think is something that we need. And we have tools for that, right? Teachers have tools to be able to put a research paper in and say how much of this was generated by AI.
Right.
They can give you I don't know that I'm always sold on numbers because you can put it into 2 or 3 different modems and it comes out different. But I think as long as and I don't know what that threshold number is. I don't know if I would say, is it 10%, 15%, 20%.
I heard somebody say today it's actually 20%.
I mean, it just depends on what you're comfortable with, I think, as far as what the school district would say or what people would say. I wouldn't say more than, because 20%, I mean, if it's more, that'd be like 30 years ago writing a paper, you're writing 1/5 of the paper and the rest of it you got from somebody else.
Yeah.
That doesn't,
I think if you are somebody I was talking to today said if you're citing some of those sources, it's actually probably not such a bad thing.
Well, yeah, as long as you're just like in a normal paper, if you're citing your source and you know where it's from and you did the research to do it, I mean, they directed you to it, but you're actually looking through it and picking out the stuff that you think is important. It's not really any different than what we used to do.
I think we need to teach our students more ways that they can use AI effectively.
I think what the biggest thing that came in, and it goes to what you're saying, is that if we're in a school system and we're trying to, I don't want to say discourage, but we hold kids accountable for using AI if they use it over a certain percentage, or the teacher looks at it and gives them another chance and says, hey, this is really heavy AI. You need to redo it, put it in your own words, do your own thing.
Mm-hmm.
What message does it send when we use AI to grade the papers? So if we're telling them not to use it, but I, as the teacher, am using it to grade their papers and I'm not putting in the same amount of work to do it, what is that saying? It's kind of like telling a kid to put his phone away and the teacher's on their phone the whole class period. Does that ever happen? I mean, not here. But I'm just saying in general, that would be the same thing. It's like telling your kid, hey, don't smoke while you're sitting there chain smoking in front of them.
Yeah.
It's by your actions, right? And you see that, and it's difficult for high school kids to look past that.
Yeah.
When you, as the educator or as the teacher in the room, are telling them they can't do something, but yet you are. Because that old saying, which, well, I can do it because I'm the adult, that doesn't fly.
I wonder,
and never did.
No.
Reminds me of a quote: be the example that you want them to be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with AI, and one way you spoke about it the last way, I think what we need to look at AI as is kind of an assistant, where you would give that assistant your paper and have that assistant look over that paper and maybe make some corrections or look at it and add some content, but you still have to be that author. You have to be the person who's going to look at that content and say, yeah, this is the way I would write it, or I'm going to change it so that it is the way I would write it, rather than saying, oh, AI generated all this and I just gave it to you. And it really isn't anything that, I put in some ideas, but it gave me what it gave me. I think you need to be the author. You need to be the person that is making that content. And I think that's where the first one that you talked about, where you just put in a topic and you get one back. And the second one where you'd put in and get research, I think that's fine. I think the third one, you have to look at and say, well, how do I make this my own? Rather than I put in what I put in and I got back what I got back, and I'm just going to turn that in. You still have to read through it and say, okay, this sounds like me. This doesn't sound like me. And
so I do think it's important, just like any other technology that comes down the line, that it's our responsibility as educators to teach students how to use it correctly. And I think that it's important that students know how to use it correctly, and what those boundaries are. What is it that if I was using this, what are the moral or ethically correct ways to use it, that follow down the right way or the wrong way, or this is this way. I think that to me is probably the biggest thing that comes out of the conversation for me, is that it's just like any other technology that would come down the pipe for kids.
What about this little spin? How many people are afraid to introduce AI into the education system because we think it might replace some of our efforts in the classroom?
Might replace teachers? Is that what you're saying?
Maybe.
We're going down a rabbit hole here.
We could.
I mean, the one that I had was, and that's a pretty good, thought to go down to talk about. The one that I had is that what's one of the main things that people were worried about with AI is that AI starts to learn.
Right.
And not only does it learn, but it's taking whatever the majority of the thoughts are that are somehow put into it and it's learning from, and it goes a direction. It goes an opinion way, right? It's not just factually based. It starts to form opinions, okay? And a lot of that is based on what input it gets, right?
Right.
People worry about AI learning, And as it learns, right, it starts to influence back people as they're using it because it directs them a certain way, the way that AI is learned.
Isn't that what teachers do in the classroom?
Oh, sure.
Anyways.
But
So how
you
is
know as
that-
well as I do that students don't always listen to teachers.
Sure.
You could tell them as a teacher something and they'd be like, whatever. And then a kid tells them in the hallway 10 minutes later and they're like, oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Because it's a peer. All right. In our age, in our generation, for this technological generation that's here, this means more. And I'm pointing to my computer at the moment.
Sure.
Than what we're always saying. I mean, look at how hard it is already for them to say, oh, I saw it on the internet. It's got to be true.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and many people are getting their news off of TikTok or
Oh, yeah.
And
Instagram
some of that's-
or
some of
that
that's
kind
AI.
of thing. And some of it is AI. And what we need to start teaching kids is how to discern that too.
Yeah.
And figure out what is good, what is not, and to think on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you said that we need to get to a point where we're teaching kids to think.
And how many times have we heard the term fake news?
Right.
Yeah,
It happens all the time.
It does.
Okay. Now, you really have to be vigilant. Okay. Like if you're really going to go and you're going to look for your news, you're going to go through your stuff. I mean, there's trusted news sources that people get their news from. And a lot of people, a little younger than us, through our age and older, get it from certain sources. And then from that certain age, maybe it's like the mid 30s into the 40s, get it more from other sources like TikTok or Instagram or wherever these other things are, where a lot of times you'll see it's individuals that aren't in a trusted news source, if you want to say, telling you the news. I think it's crazy sometimes, because if you ever go down that road, like I've done that before, where I'll just be like today, a colleague told me that Sharon Moore got suspended for 2 games, the Michigan coach today. I hadn't heard. Now I wasn't on my phone either. I was working, right? So I didn't know. I think it's one of those things where we need to be careful, because like some of that news, like you guys, one of you two said, I don't know, some of it's AI generated.
Yeah.
But that's where that fear comes in. And again, I'm not promoting that fear. I'm saying that is a fear that people have about AI.
Yeah.
Is that once it starts to think and it grows and it learns, who is controlling that? Who's controlling its growth and what information it's disseminating to us?
One of the things that I react to in more of a stronger way than what I normally react is fear-generated type of reactions.
Okay.
And that's kind of what I feel like some people have when it comes to AI is I'm afraid it's going to do A, B, or C.
That's why I was saying it.
Yeah. And I kind of understand that a little bit, but at the same time, I don't want to be driven by fear. But I do understand we got to guard against this. So there's like this fine line of how do we react? Is that something that can actually really happen? I don't know.
I think there's a difference in what you said is true, is that there's one thing to react to it or be driven by it, and one thing to be aware of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that if you started to see certain things that maybe brought that to light, like, hey, this wasn't happening before, or whatever you would see. I just think that it's important to be educated about it, about possibilities. You're not driven by that. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah.
But I know some people are.
Right.
Some people live in that world.
Yeah.
I don't live in that world, because if you did, you'd never get anything done, because you'd always be worried about what's happening around you and behind
You're
your
looking
back.
over
and,
your shoulder,
I mean,
right?
Yeah.
forever. So I try not to, and I don't really have to try very hard to not live that way, because I think it's just, there's too many things that I want to enjoy and accomplish, as opposed to sit there and wait for the bad things to happen that I'm worried are going to happen.
Yeah. I do wonder, I was reading an article, I don't know, it was recently, about AI and which age groups it could actually affect more than others. And it was an article, I want to say it was in the like Washington Post or one of those types of big papers, national papers. And it said that the potential for it to affect people our age, particularly people who are professionals and who do technical jobs, is pretty realistic. Pretty high. Yep. And so like they gave the example, for instance, of somebody who gets an X-ray done and they're trying to work through all these, the doctor or the specialist is trying to work through all these different scenarios based on medical journals, pictures of their X-rays, that actually could be a job that could be replaced by AI because all it needs is information and pictures in order to make a diagnosis. And I thought that was fascinating.
Yeah. There's a book, I think it's called Reimagine. He was talking about those jobs that we have done over time. Are they going away because of technology?
AI. Yeah.
And this was a while ago. It was before AI. And
I think technology is one thing. AI, which is actually built to learn and to expand itself,
based on
is
information,
a little different.
Right.
Technology has replaced a lot of jobs.
Right.
I mean, you can't even, I just laughed because I was in Illinois again and there's nobody at the toll booth anymore. But the technology can walk right in there and take care of it because they program it. But who are the guys that are programming it? The guys that really know what they're doing, right? That's where the problem comes with the AI thing is who's programming it? We are. Everybody is. Because it's taking information from anybody that it gets.
Yeah.
And do I want my broken femur to be, diagnosed from a bunch of information that some crazy high school kid was typing in a bunch of stuff one day about something he saw
I don't think it works like that.
I don't think so either.
I
I'm just saying, I think that it takes information from what I've understood. There's a lot of different, it's obviously not just one thing.
Sure.
But there's information that's there. And at some point, AI needs to make a decision as to what it is moving or what it's going toward. Because there's a lot of times if you put something in, you'll get something out that's complete gibberish. It makes no sense whatsoever. It's because it hasn't really either gotten to that topic or that area of expertise that it thinks that it can. I don't know if you guys watch medical shows.
You have to refine it with your
with the way that you put it in.
Yeah. You can't.
I'm not sold on it. Let me just put it that way.
I think if it could potentially decrease maybe the cost of healthcare if something like that were to happen, because instead of paying a specialist, $1,500 to read an X-ray, you got that done through the job of AI. And the way that this article explained it, if it's fishing through dozens and dozens of medical journals that the specialist would probably be fishing through anyways, but probably take 3 times as long. I'm game. I'd be the guinea pig on that one.
Here's another way that it's affected jobs. Legal research.
Yeah.
You don't have to spend all that time and have a legal library and all that. You can put your query in
we're getting rid of libraries. Oh boy. See where it's going?
You can put your query into AI and get that back. Now, as a lawyer or as a legal aid, you have to read it and look at it and say, yes, this case was this and that. You still have to do the research, but AI is going to do a lot of that for you.
Yeah.
So there's been a couple times where I've put something in and I've read what it spits out. And then I go and I'll do it through another way, whether it's not necessarily through Google, but I'll go to an online library research clearinghouse, right? And look through some topics to do it. And a lot of times they're very different because it paraphrases a lot.
Yeah.
So in some of these things, when you're looking for something specific, it's difficult because it doesn't maybe necessarily have that as far as the specific knowledge that you need, which you would definitely need in a medical sense. Okay. It can't be so broadly general. It has to be very, very, very specific because, one small thing could change the entire diagnosis of anything, really, because you're dealing in very small units of whatever it would be. I think that it's something that, and we've done this before in our country where things have gone and they get going super fast and then we have to try to reel it back in. And I think there's moments where we probably need to try to do that because the technology piece is still, it's not, I shouldn't say still, it's always going to be a work in progress. Okay. So the areas that we think it might help the most, I would think we would need to be a little careful just to make sure that we don't let it go too far.
Right.
Without enhancing it somehow to make sure that it's right.
That sounds like a little bit of fear there.
Oh, it's not fear. I think to me, it's reality to say it's just like anything else. It's like, am I going to bring in, let's just say that our principal left the building. Am I going to bring somebody in who's not had any experience as a principal? Probably not.
No.
So the idea of taking something and putting trust into something that you think might have had some experience with it, but you don't really know for sure, you're taking a risk. And depending on what that is that if I'm doing it to write a paper, obviously there's not a big risk except for me getting an F.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you're making a diagnosis,
but if you're making
medical diagnosis,
or it's to build an airplane or build a better bomb or something or whatever it is. Clearances and all these things, like there's a lot of stuff. And I don't know if I've said this before, but I don't like it. It's there. It's not like it's a problem because it's not hurting anybody. But I can't stand watching some movies anymore because it's computer generated.
Yeah.
It's not real. It drives me nuts. But I think that I watch it and it's like that. No, that's just, and you've seen them. Some are really good.
Oh yeah.
And some are really bad. And it's like, man, you dumped billions of dollars on this movie.
Well, if you look at Star Wars, one of the last Star Wars movie. No, it's one of the last Star Wars movie. Princess Leia, what's her name?
Carrie Fisher.
Carrie Fisher had died.
Right.
And they actually did an AI generated model of her to place her in this particular movie.
Well, didn't they do that with the guy from Fast and Furious too, Paul Walker?
Yep. They did that too.
Him too. Yeah, it's some of that stuff is a little creepy to me because like claymation, even that kind of wigs me out a little bit. But,
really, that's ancient.
But I know, but it's just, it always is kind of wigged me out about that stuff. But like some of those movies
there, huh?
Yeah, I just watch some of that stuff and it's like, man, I want to see some Three Stooges action. I want to see some real in action. Nothing generated there except, ass hattery.
I would say
you could probably edit that out.
When it comes to AI, I've always been pretty much an early adopter of technology throughout the years, and I have adopted AI pretty heavily, to the point to where when I use it, like I'll have it summarize articles, I'll have it give me suggestions of topics.
But do you read the article first?
Not always. No.
So you're getting Cliff's Notes.
Pretty much. But what I would do in the beginning is I would read the article and then have it summarize.
Okay.
So you
just to see if I could
some trust.
Yeah, I built some trust with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was it's been good for me.
So you gave a talk at church. I don't know if you call them sermons. Do you?
Yeah, we call them sermons.
So you gave a sermon at church. Did you use AI?
I did use AI.
Did you?
For the purpose of summarizing different articles.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with using AI. I think you're right in that we need to teach kids how to use tools properly and how it will enhance their learning rather than replace their learning. And so I think this AI thing, I think it's going and it's going to continue.
Yeah.
And we need to be we need to be willing and able to help people learn how to use it and how to use it well.
Yeah, and I think even beyond kids, people in their 30s, 40s, and 50s need to learn how to use AI so that they're not left behind and they're not, useless when it comes to different things in the workforce.
Hey, we might want to wrap it up here. I think we really came to some good conclusions with it too. And
I don't know about any conclusions. I still have tons and tons of questions.
Oh, you can talk
there's a
about
lot
this
of
for a while.
questions, but I think learning about it and not being afraid of it are two great things.
Yeah, I think not being afraid of
kind of going with. So, Luke, you got a quote for us?
I got one.
Is it AI generated?
I don't want you to think that I'm all afraid of it. So, some people worry that artificial intelligence will make us feel inferior, but then anybody in his right mind should have an inferiority complex every time he looks at a flower. Deep. Think about that one. Chew on that a little bit.
In my opinion, that is pointing us toward a creator.
Yeah.
And every time you look at a flower, you should feel inferior because you know there's a creator behind that flower.
Absolutely.
100%.
Absolutely.
Amen.
That's good stuff.
All right.
There you go. Well, hey, thanks for hanging out with us here at Half Century Hangout. We appreciate your listening to us, and make sure you like us wherever you listen to your best podcast. So,
Happy Cinco de Mayo.
Peace out.